Alright, boys and girls, today, because you didn't ask, we are diving into the shallow end of the pool to find out why I upgraded to a big bike. We'll get to the reasons why this current bike is so much better than my previous one, specs-wise, very vaguely, and ride-wise. What specific use cases I need to upgrade for, everything in between, and towards the end, actually revealing my previous bike. So with those ado out of the way, let's go! When I was a lot younger, every time we went for a summer break in my provincial hometown, I would be able to ride my auntie's Yamaha Chappy. It was actually the same aunt who taught me how to operate that small but loads of fun mini bike. It was an absolute monster for a wee lad as me at that time. If I remember correctly, the Chappy had an automatic transmission, twist the throttle and go faster type of thing, but it introduced me to proper balancing, counter steering, which I had no idea why it works the way it does, but it just does, and more importantly, to not be intimidated of motorcycles. Eventually, another relative put me on a tricycle at some point where I met the manual transmission, which I also learned and I guess it stuck with me. As I got older, the Chappy also got older and smaller for me. The tricycle was being used for business most of the time and also older, and the scooter slash moped as we know it was making its grand entrance to every Filipino household. So with my Chappy riding experience, I transitioned to the more basic scooters and mopeds with the same twist and go fast mechanism. In all honesty, I didn't really catch the motorcycle bug all that much. In my young mind, motorcycles were just another way to get around. Smaller ones were slower and lighter, and bigger ones were way heavier but faster. It was as simple as that to me. I also didn't plan, nor yearn for, nor ask my parents to get ourselves a motorcycle. All I knew back then was I knew how to ride one. Eventually, I learned how to drive four-wheeled vehicles and was only ever able to really ride motorcycles back home in the province whenever we visited, which was getting less frequent since I was studying in Manila. Fast forward to several years ago, and the metro traffic will inspire me to be on two wheels again so I can weave past stopped vehicles easier. For a time there, it was my main transportation to work, and it was also my weekend getaway option for both short and long rides. My first bike was not the most powerful, but it got me to places with enough willpower. My new-ish bike is the Royal Enfield Himalayan 450 from the established Indian brand which is currently making a resurgence. This is my first and only big bike and I'm loving it. Corny story about the name. One time while stopped at an intersection somewhere on my still unnamed bike, two kids came approaching and were seemingly trying to read the text on the tank. The other kid said slowly in Tagalog, Himalayan. Himalayan! Translated to English, it's a miracle. This drew a smile inside my helmet, but I was not about to name my bike Miracle or Himala. Himi or Hima is the unofficial universal nickname for this bike as far as I know. So I went to our Spanish colonizers for profound inspiration, thus Milagros or Mili for short. And the rest, as they say, is history. As mentioned, Mili is just a single-cylinder adventure bike, but it is heaps and bounds faster than my old bike. It just is. My old bike will never be able to catch up to Mili, no matter who would be riding it. As for the weight, even though my old bike is as light as a feather compared to Mili, once moving, Mili feels as light as can be, maybe even lighter, and you won't even notice the weight until you stop and try to balance with either or both your feet on either or both sides. Plus, Mili can carry more luggage and even a passenger with no problems, while my older bike can technically carry a passenger but with more hassles and discomfort for both of us. This alone makes the upgrade all the more worth it. Arguably the single most praised feature of the Himalayan 450 based on consumer reviews, the suspension on this bike is indeed amazing. Though I chose this bike not for off-roading reasons, given that we are in the Philippines, every other road feels like off-road anyway. And this bike eats bumps and potholes for breakfast all day every day. Compare that to my old bike, which started out with a good front suspension but now with a more rigid one, and Mili is a much more comfortable riding experience. They are both in an upright riding position which I have always liked, but my old bike feels every crack, crevice, bump, stone, sand, while Mili just absorbs everything. Being that I live in Luzon and near and around Metro Manila, the ability to get into the expressway for faster and statistically less dangerous riding was another important reason for the upgrade. Here in the Philippines, 400cc and above motorcycles can use the expressway for a toll fee and cover more ground faster compared to grinding it out on national roads that cross from town to town. Not only do I now have the option to avoid errant jeepneys, tricycles, pedicabs, pedestrians, dogs, cats, rats, red lights, intersections, and every other potential collision maker in the narrow streets of the metro, it is also generally easier to navigate the wider multiple lanes of the expressway with vehicles going as the same direction as me. Don't get me wrong, these expressways still experience heavy traffic more often than they should and are also still prone to accidents and collisions, but filtering here is way easier, and it has been proven statistically that intersections are where majority of motorcycle accidents happen. My old bike can't get in and will never be allowed in the expressway for obvious reasons. My old bike is more reliable hands down, given that it has less tech and simpler. But Mili, a thumper, is also being quickly recognized as one of the more reliable modern bikes out there. I've seen videos of reviewers and riders who go on crazy long off-road rides with the bike sometimes getting dropped and submerged in rivers and even mud, as well as grueling interstate tours across the US, India, and other countries with little to no issues whatsoever. They basically just hose it down, lube their chains, and go again. Of course, any bike at any level or category will have quirks and glitches and even major issues for a handful of cases. But universally at this point in time, the Himalayan 450 is fast becoming one of those everyday do-it-all machines with easy maintenance, thus enabling you to ride more. Honestly though, my old bike is way more reliable. There are less wirings and technology that could fail and can survive almost anything, but Mili is also fairly reliable, but with the added benefits of the other advantages mentioned before. Before I reveal my old bike, I just want to reiterate that everything I have talked about here was from my own experience, use case, and opinion. Things will definitely be different for you one way or another. So without another further ado, here's my old bike, and hopefully you can see why I really needed an upgrade. Meet Rex, my lightest, most reliable bike. Will never catch up to Mili even if you let Pogacar ride it. It has 0 horsepower compared to Mili's 40, but the torque is however much you put into it, so potentially limitless up to a point. It will ride in the rain, snow, mud, gravel, floods, or anything that you can eventually carry it over on because it's light as hell. You can carry this bike with one hand. It's never gonna get inside an expressway, but it will take you to roads less traveled at a pace where you can literally smell the roses and everything else all the time. Maintenance is a breeze and parts are overflowing wherever you go. You might not want to install foot pegs for a passenger, but it can be done. You're gonna feel the weight as the weight is your own, but you will persevere riding. Similar bikes have been known to do the Philippine Loop, and others have even crossed continents. It's simple, it's less techy, and will never be obsolete. Rex and Mili, the only 2 bikes I'll ever need and want for the moment. Thank you for joining me on this journey and meeting Mili and Rex. Seriously, if there's one thing to take away from this video, the answer is yes. If you did not learn anything substantial though, I promise you will on this one on your screen. Anyway, ride safe, drive safe, and in the immortal words of Charlie,
that's really about it. See ya.